I started thinking about pre-war years. I used to go to Japanese school on Saturdays, and I remember that during lunchtime we had quite a long lunch, and I would draw like faces and people and little girls with big eyes, you know, like the anime is done right now. And the girls that were watching would just love it. And so they would ask me for copies. And so then there would be this lineup of you know, 3 or 4 girls who were waiting for me to draw them something. And every so often one girl would say, "Oh, draw me." And so I would kind of change the eyes and the mouth a little bit, and they would just love that. My name is Lily Havey. I do stained glass, watercolor, and some mixed media, and I live in Salt Lake City. I had taken piano lessons for, what, 2 years, 3 years. And so one of my huge memories of pre-war Japan is having to dress up in a kimono to be on a recital, and Miss Wilker, the teacher, Japanese teacher in Los Angeles, chose all Japanese American students. Oh, and I remember how awful it was to have to dress up in a kimono because they're very constricting. And I wrote a book called Gasa Gasa Girl Goes to Camp. And gasa gasa means someone who can't sit still. And you cannot walk, or you can't take big steps in a kimono. You know, that's why you see these women kind of, gently paddling along, and people think, "Oh, isn't that nice and dainty?" Well, you know, you can't do anything else. And I just hated it. And so anyway, that was a minus in trying to play in front of an audience. But that all disappeared in camp. This is one of the watercolors that I did of the internment camp at Amachi. And 9L, our block, was separated from all the other blocks, and the barbed wire fence that enclosed the camp was, maybe 100 yards away from my block. I would go out there and wonder if I could leave and walk to Kansas. And so this painting is this little girl who's maybe 8 or 9, crying because these jackrabbits can hop to Kansas, hop into camp, but I couldn't do that. And so she's really sad about that. I saw my son taking watercolor at Highland High School, and he was doing really well, and I thought, well, maybe I could watercolor. And so that was the start of my watercoloring. And of course, the very first ones were all of the concentration camp of Amachi and Santa Anita, and I have a whole slew of those. They were displayed in museums and libraries. The curators would ask, well, we need a little blurb to hang next to the painting to tell what they're about. So I said, that's easy. So I would write 1 or 2 sentences, and of course I couldn't stop. I mean, I would write the whole story of that painting until I had, what, 20 stories, which then turned into a book. I took these up to an editor, and I said, you know, what do you think? And she said, oh, wow. And she was really enthusiastic. And so I wrote a book about camp, the Santa Anita Assembly Center and Amachi Relocation Center. And like I said, they call them today Amachi Concentration Camp. That wasn't the term they used, the government used was relocation, because, you know, they didn't want it to sound like we were being forced to go anywhere. I felt all this anger at being confined at Amachi, and so I took the reddest one that I made, and I put Amachi Camp on it. During World War II, there was a little girl, she was about 10, 12, named Sadako, and who was badly burned at Hiroshima. And she was told that if she folded 1,000 cranes, that she would be cured. And so she got to 600 or 700 and died. And so artists, from that point, kind of took up the mantle of creating what they call tsuru for peace. Tsuru is cranes for peace. The crane have really been an inspiration to me. As a matter of fact, I have a crane on my jacket. And I really feel that I'm continuing for Sadako, you know, something that she really wanted to do.